PMI Netherlands Chapter. Let's kick off. Thank you all for your attendance today. We hope that you will find this event insightful. My name is Chris Gliga, and I am the membership lead for the PMI Netherlands chapter. And together with my colleague Arina and Hikmet, who's behind the scenes, we will act as facilitators of today's webinar. Today's webinar is a great opportunity to learn more about creating psychological safety with Disciplined Agile, a Google Safe case study. And today we have a fantastic speaker with us, Priscilla, that will be introduced in a couple of minutes. I will start with some housekeeping information to make you aware of a few things. So this event will be live now on Zoom and then later available on the PMI Netherlands chapter in the members only area. And the presentation in PDF format will also be uploaded there. To make you aware, this meeting will be recorded for the Agile 20 Reflect Festival archive, but also for our members of the PMI Netherlands chapter who would like to see it later. The video will be published on YouTube with the Creative Commons license on the Agile 20 Reflect channel. We will also have a rolling conversation via the chat box, so we invite you to share your comments, questions, and stories that we can all see. Hikmet will put all the participants on mute during the presentation, but we will unmute you during the facilitated discussion that will happen as part of the Q&A section. The questions can be also provided using the raise hand, so please do not hesitate during the presentation to share your questions. This event also is provided with a PDU code, which will be provided in the chat, so you can use it to register it as part of the PMI certification. Please also complete a survey. So that's also, we appreciate your feedback on this webinar of today, and a survey will be posted on the chat. So please complete it at the end of the session. As you know, this year we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Agile Manifesto, and at the same time the 20th anniversary of the PMI Netherlands chapter. So a big happy birthday, everyone, and it's a great celebration, and that's a great opportunity for us to be together. The PMI Netherlands chapter is supporting the Global Agile 20 Reflect Festival, which is a big event, the biggest global Agile festival ever. That includes over 600 events worldwide in February 2021. And these events are more focused on the Agile education that take place around the world. So we are participating today with this event as part of this festival. More information about the festival can be found on the website agile20reflect.org and also on Twitter and LinkedIn. So feel free to check the calendar of the next events and sign up for those that are interesting for you. The Agile Festival has been made possible by volunteers and funded by generous donations from the community to keep this non-commercial. And you're welcome to make a donation to this link. And for your awareness, there is a code of conduct, and we need to adhere to this code of conduct and keep it open and safe. So I would like to make you aware of that. And essentially for all the participants, speakers or attendees, it's important to treat each other with respect and kindness. And we hope that this will be the case as part of this of today's webinar. So this was from my side, and one important thing that I would like to mention, and is also a pleasure that today we have with us a board member of the PMI Netherlands chapter, Drake Morse, who is the director of the professional development. Welcome, Drake, and please, can you share with us a few words about the PMI Netherlands chapter?
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for this. I'm really excited as, you know, I think Disciplined Agile and Agile in itself is growing a lot. So very happy to be bringing this and accelerating this under our broad professional development, I think, umbrella within the organization. Overall, I think within PMI, we've been making quite a bit of growth, especially within our certifications and adoption of Agile. There are new certifications that have been recently released in addition to our Disciplined Agile space growing. I invite you to maybe check those out on our website as they're getting quite interesting and quite involved technically. So one actually is the Wicked Problem Solver that really helps with the creative and the digital sense. So I'd suggest to take that out. But today we're talking about Disciplined Agile, and I think I don't want to make it too long. And I think Arina is here, and she has been brought on to support me in focusing on Disciplined Agile, and she has been creating a bit of a journey for that and has a number of events that will be upcoming. And so I'll give her the microphone to further speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Drake, and thank you, Chris, for great introduction. I will just jump in with a few words about Disciplined Agile journey, which we started in the Netherlands chapter last year. My name is Arina Zaitseva. I'm a Disciplined Agile champion for the Netherlands chapter, and together with Drake, Chris, and Hikmet, I will be co-hosting today's session. Our idea for the Disciplined Agile activities in the chapter is to organize a series of sessions on Disciplined Agile topic that each one is kind of a follow-up, starting this year with a great team of volunteers of the professional development team led by Drake. And we're also planning to do joint Disciplined Agile events with other PMI chapters, as the Disciplined Agile chapter champions are currently developing the across chapter collaboration. I even already saw some familiar faces from this group here as attendees today. Participation in the projects related to the Disciplined Agile and Agile is also on our agenda. As for the upcoming Disciplined Agile events, we are having already on March 15th an interactive online workshop with a great team of experts from DA Trainer Team Europe. They will give a short introduction and will explain Disciplined Agile with a showcase and a practice example for an Agile transformation with the DA toolkit. And at the end, they will answer your questions. So please follow up our website and register for that session too, if you are interested. It will be announced there in the coming days. We also copied in our chat box the email address if you want to reach out to us regarding a Disciplined Agile topic. In addition, I would like to say that we are very excited to be a part of the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. It's a great opportunity to use a global platform to share the insights, experiences, and emphasize topics which have been especially highlighted by ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Among them is a psychological safety. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Priscilla Bakskabai, who will drive us to unleash that topic. Priscilla was at the beginning of the Disciplined Agile journey in our chapter, so it's a great pleasure to have her with us today as our keynote speaker. Currently, Priscilla is the PMO officer at Recall Europe Supply Chain Management BV and the founder of Go Rojo Project Management Coaching, Training and Consultancy. Of course, she will tell you more about herself. Please, Priscilla, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Arina. I will start sharing my screen. Hikmet, could you make me a co-host, please?
You are a co-host, Priscilla.
Okay, there we go. Yes. Perfect. All right. So thank you again, everyone, for making the time to be here with us today. Well, who am I? I'm Priscilla, and I am deeply passionate about people and projects. So I believe that neither can be successful without the other. And so my professional mission is captured in the name of my company, Go Rojo, which stands for Go, Reach One, Help One. And that is why I'm here today, because I aim to be an individual who creates collective value and helps wherever I can by putting people first today and tomorrow. I won't spend a lot of time talking about my certificates and my jobs, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn and we can discuss that later. Let's go into the reason why we're here today. So we're going to cover 5 main topics. We'll start with a quick introduction to the Disciplined Agile mindset. Then we'll do a deeper dive into a very interesting case study from Google. And then we'll explore some strategies from Disciplined Agile on how we can enable psychological safety wherever we are. And I'll try to build in a few interactive exercises along our journey, so please be ready to participate. And we'll have a final Q&A session, but feel free to pop any questions in the chat that you have that are really urgent, and I'll try to tackle that as soon as we can on the topic that we're on at that moment. But first of all, let us measure the temperature in the room. Arena, could you please launch poll 1?
Yes, done.
So could all of you please take this poll? How familiar are you with Disciplined Agile? See, we're 63% there, 77%, 81, we're getting there. A few people need to give us their input. Let's give them 1 more minute.
Yes, we have like 20 still, yeah, 20 seconds.
Priscilla, Arina, the participants with mobile might have issues for the voting for information.
Yeah, that's true. So let us just share the results right now. And for those who are on phone and unable to see the results, so the results say that 28% of us are not familiar with Disciplined Agile at all. 48% of us have heard of it, but have never used it. 20% of you have some experience with Disciplined Agile, and actually 4% of you have lots of experience with Disciplined Agile. I would love to leverage some of your input from the experts within the participants for today. So please feel free to chip in and share some information in case I missed the mark, so to say. But let's go on. Thank you all for participating there. So for those who are not familiar with Disciplined Agile, let's do a quick introduction. Disciplined Agile was acquired by PMI in August of 2019. And what it is, it's an agnostic hybrid that leverages strategies from a lot of resources. And here you can see 3 principal figures at Disciplined Agile. So Mike Lyons, Al Shalloway, and Scott Ambler. And Scott and Mark created Disciplined Agile in 2009 when Scott was the chief agile and lean methodologist for IBM worldwide. So he collaborated with Mark to write the first book, and this was called Disciplined Agile Delivery, which was published in 2012. And Al Shalloway is currently the PMI Director of Agility at Scale. And he is also the creator of FLEX, which stands for Flow for Enterprise Transformation. This is the first at-scale approach to Agile, and it has become a part of Disciplined Agile since September 2019. And we have seen DA making leaps and bounds. It is actually considered the second most popular enterprise Agile framework behind the Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe as we refer to it. Moving on now. During this webinar, I will refer quite extensively to the Disciplined Agile body of knowledge book called Choose Your Wow. As I mentioned, this book was written by Mark and Scott. If you're a PMI member, or if you become a DA student, you will receive a free downloadable PDF copy of this book. For me, I prefer to have a hard copy. So I have one of my best readings next to my desk at work, and it makes for quite an insightful resource. Arina, please could you share to everyone the link for the Disciplined Agile book?
It's already there.
Super, thank you. Now let's move on to the Disciplined Agile mindset. The Disciplined Agile mindset is formed by principles, promises, and guidelines. And we as Disciplined Agilists, we believe in these 8 principles. We promise to adopt these 7 behaviors, and follow these 8 guidelines. Now, there's a purpose for each aspect of all of these DA mindsets. The 8 principles, this provide a philosophical foundation for business agility, and they're based on both lean and flow concepts. Then moving on to the 7 promises. The promises that you see here are the agreements that we make with our teammates, with our stakeholders, and anyone within our organization who we interact with. And the promises define for us a collection of behaviors that will enable us to collaborate effectively and professionally. And then finally, the 8 guidelines. These guidelines help us to be more effective in our way of working and in improving our wow over time. I think, Arina, you've done it already. You've shared the link to the Disciplined Agile Mindset page. And for the purposes of this event, we're going to focus on the highlighted promise to create psychological safety and embrace diversity. So this is the definition of psychological safety according to Disciplined Agile. Being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of status, career, or self-worth. We should be comfortable being ourselves in our work setting. You can see that on page 43 of your PDF book once you have that. Now, in 2015, a group of individuals at Google set out to perform a database study to answer the question, what makes a Google team effective? And this project was codenamed Project Aristotle. And this was in tribute to Aristotle's quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." So over 2 years, the team conducted more than 200 interviews with Googlers. They looked at 250 attributes over 180 plus active Google teams. And you can read the full story about this research in the link, which is in the chat section. But before we review the findings from Google, I'd like us to recreate one of the elements the researchers did by using a situational poll. Please read along with me and get ready to give us your answer. So imagine you've been invited to join one of 2 groups. Team A is composed of people who are all exceptionally smart and beautiful and successful. Beautiful too, maybe. So when you watch a video of this group working, you see professionals who wait until a topic arises in which they are expert at, and they speak at length, explaining what the group ought to do. When someone makes a side comment, the speaker stops, reminds everyone of the agenda, and pushes the meeting back on track. Now, this team is efficient. There's no idle chit-chat or long debates, and the meeting ends as scheduled and disbands so that everyone can go back to their desks. That's Team A. Let's see Team B. Team B is evenly divided between successful executives and middle managers with few professional accomplishments. The teammates jump in and out of discussions. People interject and they complete each other's thoughts. And when a team member abruptly changes the topic, the rest of the group just follows him or her off the agenda. At the end of the meeting doesn't actually end. Everyone sits around to chat and talk about their lives. My question to all of you, Darina, let's launch poll 2. Which team would you choose to join? Team A or Team B?
We'll give it another 15 seconds.
Indeed. We're nearly there.
Yeah, nearly.
83% have voted. I think when we hit 90, we can stop. Perfect. There we go. So a very close split. 49% of you selected to go to Team A, and 51% of you selected to go to Team B. Could someone in the audience, if you chose Team A, please unmute yourself and let us know why you chose Team A. Is there anyone who chose Team A?
Yeah, hello, this is Gertjan.
Hello, Kertian. Please go ahead.
Yes. I chose A because I do not want to continue the discussion after the meeting has ended. You just have to be time boxed and say, well, okay, we've had our time, we discussed, and let's continue.
Okay, you do not want to be time boxed. Let's get here. We're here for a purpose. Let's move on. Okay, and if you chose Team B, please could you unmute yourself and let us know why you chose Team B?
I think this is Lars speaking. I think Team B comes with more innovating ideas than Team A.
Aha, more innovative ideas from Team A. Well, let's find out what the Google team discovered from their research. So, the research team at Google initially thought that by the end of their research, they would have found the perfect algorithm to create a perfect mix of individuals with the right skills, the competencies, and the traits necessary for a stellar team. You can call that the dream team formula. And they were surprised by their findings. And I quote, "Who is on a team matters less than how the team members interact, the structure, how they structure their work, and view their contributions." So what does that mean? It means that the findings suggest that you should probably opt for Team B if you're given a choice. Team A may be filled with smart people who are all optimized for peak individual efficiency, but the group norms, as we read here, seems like they discourage equal speaking. In Team A, it appears that there may be little to no exchange of the kind of personal information that lets teammates to pick up on what people are feeling or they're leaving unsaid. So it seems that there's a good chance that the members in Team A will continue to act like individuals once they come together. And there's little to suggest from what the Google research team found that as a group, they will become collectively intelligent. Now, in contrast, on Team B, where people are speaking over each other, going on tangents and socializing instead of remaining focused on the agenda, they actually found that although these teams might look inefficient to us as casual observers, because we all speak whenever we need to, these teams are actually more sensitive to each other's moods and they share personal stories and emotions. So whereas Team B might have a lot of individual stars, then the sum will be greater than the parts. That was the finding at Google. Maybe there's a better option. Could we combine elements from Team A together with Team B to actually have both? That is my open question to you all. We don't need to go back to redo the whole experiment because that was Google, but let's move on to just see. I see Laura is disagreeing with Google. I completely understand, Laura. But let's just explore a little bit on what findings they came across. Now, here's a summary of some of the key findings from Project Aristotle. They listed 5 key dynamics that set successful teams apart from other teams at Google. And the Google research team explored questions such as, can we take risks on this team without feeling insecure or embarrassed? And then on dependability, can we count on each other to do high quality work on time? Looking at structure and clarity, are goals, roles, and execution plans on our teams clear? And they also asked the questions, Are we working on something that is personally important for each of us? And finally, when it came to the impact of work, they asked, do we fundamentally believe that the work we are doing here matters? So feel free to explore these questions in your work area and see what the answers would be. For now, let's continue with a deeper dive into what they underpinned as the most important out of all these 5 dynamics. Psychological safety was the most important aspect that they underlined. Now, I'd like to ask you to think of a project you're working on right now, or maybe one that you're just about to start. For this project, do you feel like you can ask anything without the risk of sounding like you're the only one who doesn't get it? Or do you feel like you need to continue and go along with the flow in order to avoid being perceived as someone who has no clue or is just unaware? Let me give you a moment to self-reflect on your current situation. So as you think about your situation, this is why the Google team underlined psychological safety as the foundation to building a successful team. And I quote, individuals on teams with higher psychological safety are less likely to leave a company. They are more likely to harness the power of diverse ideas from their teammates, and they bring in more revenue, and they are rated as effective twice as often by executives. So that was the Google team then. What this study shows is that if we're able to overcome this very understandable human instinct to self-protect, when we start spending less time on posturing and on trying to be seen as someone who always gets it, this is the moment when we as individuals and as teams, when we start to flourish. So I'd like to invite you to share in the chat with us. On top of these reasons from Google, why is psychological safety important to you? And I see Helmut already giving us some input here. He's saying, I tend to play the sacrificial lamb in my teams. If I have questions, no matter how dumb they seem, I ask them. And my experience is that multiple people probably have the same question. Thank you so much, Helmut. Anyone else in the chat, please let us know, why is psychological safety important for you in the projects that you're working on or you're thinking of starting to work on? Or unmute yourself if typing in the chat is too much. Let us know, just one person, and then we'll move on. Oh, I see there are messages coming in. Okay, Michael Wagner, true that, Helmut. And Marcus says, this result is also in line with the lean product design and development culture. Thank you for that. Annika says, it inspires creativity. And Lars, it releases the brains. Frederick says, I'm always muted when I start contribute. I will stop contributing. Oh, Frederick, sorry for that if that happens. Hikmet, let's allow a few people to talk. Maybe if you raise your hand and then we will unmute you. Sorry about that, Martin. We don't mean to.
I can talk. I mean, in my team, if I am always muted, not in this session.
Oh, okay, I thought in this session. So please feel free to contribute. Daniel, so I remember a study on precisely what Helmut was saying. Having a sacrificial lamb is very helpful. What do you mean with that, Daniel? I'm curious. Let's just explore this one area and then we'll close. What does it mean for you? Having a sacrificial lamb is very helpful.
Yes, basically hello everyone. The study said, you know, what Helmut said there resonated with me because I remember a study that said that basically, maybe not so much a sacrificial lamb, but someone who was willing to act as the glue, someone who was willing to put themselves out there for the team. And that could include such things as being the one to ask the obvious dumb questions so the others don't have to. Those types of people actually create a sense of the study, and I can't remember this, I would have to look it up, it's somewhere in my archives, but teams with those types of individuals that featured those types of individuals, at least one of them, tended to be better performing.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you all for your comments on the chat section. I don't have time to go through all of them, but I will definitely read that and encourage everyone to do that too. So let's move on. So how can we leverage some strategies from Disciplined Agile to help us to enable and sustain psychological safety in our teams? First of all, be respectful. Respect what other people know that we don't, and recognize that none of us is the smartest person in the room. Secondly, be humble. In many ways, humility is the key to having a learning mindset and to also being respectful. Thirdly, be ethical and trustworthy. People feel safer working with and interacting with us if they trust us. But also remember, it takes a split second for trust to be broken. So value that trust. And finally, make it safe to fail. Agile talks about fail fast. And the whole concept of choosing your way of working from Disciplined Agile is all about making it safe for teams to try something new, even if they fail. So let's explore some more technical details about Disciplined Agile for those who are new to this. So whatever project you're working in, whatever life cycle it is, from Agile to Lean to traditional, we all go through project phases. And Disciplined Agile project phases are inception, construction, transition, and ongoing. So it all starts with the inception phase. When we come together as a team, we envision the project, we plan the project, we do just enough work to get organized and get going in the right direction. And the process continues with the construction phase. Here, we come together to produce a consumable solution, so with enough functionality to be valuable to our stakeholders. And then the project moves on to the transition phase. And here we start releasing into production. So whatever solution it is, whatever service it is, we're releasing something into production. And through all these phases, we have the ongoing phase. And this ongoing phase includes activities that occur continuously throughout all the other phases. Now we're going to explore this further. Disciplined Agile is goal-driven. So this means that the Disciplined Agile toolkit will guide us through process-related decisions. And these decisions are organized under process goals. As you can see on this slide, there are 21 process goals in the Disciplined Agile Delivery Toolkit. And these are organized under the project phases, which I've just introduced. So we can see here the process goals in the inception phase, the process goals in the construction phase, in the transition phase, and in the ongoing phase. So a process goal actually captures the detailed process-related decisions and options for a cohesive subset of a team's way of working. Think of a process goal diagram as a visual depiction of all the aspects you might need to think as you work through your project. And these are also called decision points. What a decision point does. Hey Vanessa, what a decision point does, it gives you several options to choose from. And what Disciplined Agile says, okay, this is not every possible solution under the sky. They give you a good range of options and make it clear to you that you have choices. It is not exhaustible, right? We're going to now deep dive into an example for one of these process goal diagrams in the ongoing project phase. And this is the grow team members phase. So when we're looking at the grow team member phase, we're asking ourselves, how can we support our team members in their personal and professional growth? Now, as I've mentioned before, remember, a process goal diagram is also called a decision point. In a decision point, you have several options to choose from. It's not an exhaustive list. Okay, so I'm looking to support my team in their personal and professional growth, right? Now, the Grow Team Members Process Goal Diagram, as we see here, is giving me 3 decision points. I could consider, how will I help my team to improve their skill set? How can I provide feedback to my team members to help them grow? And how can I sustain the team over time to enable them to grow? Now, let's say I don't know where to start. I am completely new to Agile. As you can see here, the sustained process goal decision point is giving me 5 techniques or practices to choose from. And you can see them here. I can look at exploring coaching or mentoring or psychological safety, sustainable pace, whole team, recognition and appreciation. So there are so many techniques to choose from. If I don't know, the Disciplined Agile Toolkit goes a steps further. It indicates in bold italics what are the default starting points that you could decide to look at if you don't know where to start. Now, these techniques and practices are almost always from either Scrum or XP or Agile modeling and a few rational unified process ideas thrown in there. So quite a good, strong basis for the reasons why they're suggesting this as your starting points. Now, keep in mind, Disciplined Agile is not prescriptive. It does not dictate to you what you must do. Why? Because every team is unique and your context counts. So what Disciplined Agile does is that it's urging you, together with your team, look at what's happening around you. What's the most effective technique that you and your team could adopt given your specific situation? Copy paste is not the answer. So as you can see, well, there, under sustained team decision point, psychological safety is there. It also gives you the trade-offs associated with all these options that you have there. So you have quite a lot of resources available to you. As a PMI member, you actually have access to the Disciplined Agile browser. It's a very handy online toolkit. You can explore to your heart's content all the delivery goals, all these decision points, understand what are all the trade-offs and get more guidance if you're not sure what to do and where to start with whichever task you're looking at in your project. So Arina, I believe you already shared that in the chat section. Let me see that. Rina, could you please place the link to the DA browser in the chat?
Oh, yes. Just a second, please.
And if we have time later on and there's a really urgent question about the DA browser, we can try and exploit. But if you're a PMI member, you have access to this wonderful resource. Thank you so much to all the people at PMI and Disciplined Agile for working tirelessly to give that. Thank you so much. Hikmet, I see you've put it on the chat. All right, so let's move on. So I recently hosted a webinar with a friend of mine called Billy, and this was on the topic of inclusive workplaces with agile principles. And Chris, I know you were there at that event. And one of the things that Billy kept on asking us during that event is, how can we get better? How can we get better? And so now I'd like to invite you all to a call for action. And let's answer this question in the chat section. Please share one step you can take today to help foster a psychologically safe environment wherever you are? Just one thing that you can start doing today. Observe. Joanny says, thank you so much. Indeed, start observing. Frederick, thank you for sharing. He'll start to listen. And Nicholas will reach out to some co-workers. Anneke, onboarding a new colleague by taking 30 minutes in a Teams meeting to have a coffee and to get to know them. That's beautiful, thank you. Ask for the well-being of team members. Daniel says include, and Pepine says celebrate successes. Indeed, sometimes we really don't take time to celebrate the wins and we focus on all the mistakes and the failures. Marcus also says, give the others a chance to talk and listen. How about generously listening to understand before being understood? Thank you, Chris. And Gaurav says, celebrate diversity. Indeed, celebrate wins, celebrate all our diverse viewpoints. Facilitate learning from failure examples. Yeah. Acknowledge the effort of the team and thank them. Respect each other and show that you care as a leader and a manager. All these beautiful call to actions, everyone. Joker says, allow people to share failure, frustrations, and challenges, making sure it is not just about celebrating the wins and the successes. Yoka, could you explain a little bit about your comment? It's very interesting.
Sure. I've seen that myself where a workflow environment became toxic because it was all about, especially in an online environment, where people were sharing their successes, and it became a little bit of this social media, look at me doing good. It kind of became a competition, and people were starting, you would get attention and applause by succeeding. So you got this sort of toxic competition, and people that were struggling didn't really dare to speak up anymore. And there was no space to feel insecure, to ask for help. So I think it's really important to actually balance the two, not to emphasize failure, but to actually support people in it.
Okay, so not just focus on the failure, but learn from it and help people to focus on getting better. Is that a good, did I understand it?
But also allow them to be in a situation that sucks. Don't just be like, oh, you just have to fix it, but actually it's okay to feel bad about something, and it's okay to struggle. We're not, life isn't picture perfect, work isn't picture perfect, and if you're struggling, and that's okay, and let's listen to that. And
perfect. Yeah, that is okay to actually go through that and get through it stronger. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Eric Van Heringen goes back to the sacrificial lamp. Use the sacrificial lamp to start lowering the bar for asking questions. Thank you for that. Be vulnerable. Empathy. Perfect. Thank you all so much for your feedback. So looking at the time, I guess let's move on. Well, we didn't have too much time to get into all the details about all the research and all the data, but I thank you all for your time. I hope that you've come away with something new, maybe a new idea, a fresh perspective, or a new strategy that you can apply to be more successful in the organizations that you belong to. And please be invited to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can proceed to discuss whatever interesting topics come to mind. Just to recap, we've gone through a long journey, but we've made it through. So we've gone through the promises, we've looked at the Google case study, some strategies that you can use, some interaction exercises, and I will now open the floor for Q&A and also put up this last slide on behalf of the PMI Netherlands Chapter. Thank you so much for having me, inviting me here today. Please feel free to share the survey. And Chris, I will get back to you and we can continue with the Q&A session.
Thank you, Priscilla, so much. That was really, really inspiring. And I think some of the questions and remarks we had from the participants were really awesome. So really, really great topic. Indeed, as you mentioned, the room is open for questions. If anyone has something to ask, then please open up your microphone and then let's take 10 minutes for Q&A.
Well, Daniel here, Daniel. This is not so, hello, thank you, Priscilla. It was a really great talk. This is not so much a question as like to offer everyone here something, basically some information. Canada is one of, I'm Canadian, so Canada is one of 2 countries in the world that have an actual federal standard for psychological safety. So I'm going to put in the chat the actual.
Oh, Daniel, you've gone on mute.
Sorry. So I put in the chat, that's the link to get the actual Canadian Standard Association Psychological Health and Safety Workplace. It's CAN CSA Z 1003. And there's a whole 166 implementation guide for companies as well. And this is slowly making its way into legislation at the federal level in Canada. So the other country that has a similar legislative effort underway to make psychological safety as strong as workplace health and safety from a physical point of view, the only other country is Australia.
Okay. And
So
is this just, I missed a little bit perhaps, Daniel, this study is sponsored by the Canadian government? We can just download it for free? Or?
Yep, it's a Canadian federal standard.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
And I know you are also a DA instructor and
yes, yeah.
very much into the topics. Is there anything you can add from your experience about psychological safety and using some of the tools from Disciplined Agile?
Well, psychological safety, I think, and I also put in earlier a link to a very recent book by Timothy Clark called the four phases of psychological safety. Without psychological safety, teams get nowhere. It's that simple. Yeah. You have to trust each other at one point, and you have to trust and help each other out at one point. Otherwise, it's like your team A, right? They look very efficient, but it's a collection of individuals. It's not a team, it's a pseudo team. And we've known this since the 60s, right? Since Tuckman forming, storming and all that stuff. But we now have identified that psychological safety. It's just so important. That's why I was really looking forward to your talk this morning, because we don't talk about it enough. And I'm very happy to see us broaching this subject. And when the chat was just, people were just going wild with their comments, right? Because everybody has been in unsafe situations. Everybody has witnessed unsafe situations. We all know safety when we feel it. And we all know the lack of safety when we feel it.
Yeah.
So it's even beyond DA, it's trust your gut. When you feel unsafe, there's a reason.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And ask yourself all the time, how can I help this situation get better?
Exactly.
So that's all we can do. Anyone else who would like to ask a question or share an experience where psychological safety came into play, wherever you are? I'm also trying to see if we missed any questions in the chat. Arina, help me if I missed something, but I did not see any open questions.
We actually, as Daniel already mentioned, have a very lively discussion in the chat.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'll just wanted to say that Daniel Gagnon, he is one of the well-known DA coaches in the world, and he will join us on March 15th on our mini workshop. So he is a great DA expert. So we're looking very much forward to have you, Daniel.
Great.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Great to have you, Daniel. We need people with lots of experience, and I think also cross-fertilizing the knowledge and expertise from different teams and countries. It's wonderful.
Exactly. Looking forward to that session. I saw there was a question from Krishna. Is Scaled Agile a part of the Agile 20 conference? Was that question answered? I think Hikmet or Chris, you know more. Is Scaled Agile taking part in this Agile 20 conference?
I think all the Agile, let's say, platforms are invited to celebrate and to share. So it's not limited just to Disciplined Agile. It covers Agile Alliance. It covers everything. So I think it's an invitation to all Agile approaches and teams and methods. Yeah.
Right.
And I see Daniel is confirming, because I think he also been probably joining some of the events. But I see it's really it's one of the events where we kind of promote all the good practices and things that work across the world in the Agile discipline. Yeah.
Right. And there was also a follow-up question from Krishna. Does Disciplined Agile make a competing framework for SAFe, as SAFe also speaks about business agility? Oh, Daniel, I see you answered that. Oh, I'm a bit behind. Daniel, why
It's
don't
okay, you were busy.
I was so busy talking. Oh, please share your insights. I see you answered. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I don't, Disciplined Agile, when you look at it, really isn't a framework in the classical sense of the word, where a framework is a, SAFe, Scrum, Scrum at Scale, Nexus. I'm certified in most of them. I was curious about all of them. The common thread in a framework, and for something to be called a framework, is there has to be, by the creators, a conscious choice of ways of doing things ahead of time. And this is presented as how the framework suggests you do something. Some use the word prescriptive. I don't think the word prescriptive is necessary, because if you feel that it's prescriptive, just don't do it. But the framework, all frameworks are well-meaning. All framework creators are well-meaning. They all set out to take this chaos and tame it and give folks a way of working through the madness and achieving their goals.
Right. Yes.
So that's SAFe, that's Scrum, that's all those are frameworks because they've made choices. Right? SAFe is a very, very specific collection of very specific choices. And I took my SPC down in Colorado with Dean Luffingwell himself, and the brilliant, warm, gentle man. So there's people who say SAFe is evil, and that's bullshit. Sorry for those. Dean means very well. But DA is not a framework in the sense that SAFe is a framework. You can be doing SAFe, you can be doing Scrum, you can be in Canada. And DA, all it does is, let's say you're doing SAFe and you're having a bit of difficulty getting your release trains to release everybody on time. Then you can use DA to look at all the options, all the decision points that are possible. And then you can modify SAFe a little bit to say, okay, well, SAFe made the decisions, but SAFe didn't want to be 9,000 pages long, so they didn't describe every single, DA does give you the options. So let's see how we can use the DA decision points to modify the way we do SAFe here. So
right,
DA
indeed.
goes,
so yeah, go ahead.
So DA goes, you had the umbrella, the umbrella slide, right?
Yeah.
So DA is an umbrella over everything, including waterfall. Right? There's nothing wrong with doing sequential type waterfall development if that's what's good for that team. I take a team who are doing periodic database updates, and they're very good at it, and they do it very waterfall. Why start imposing a agile change tax on those folks? Just look up, and DA will tell you, well, that's very waterfall. In that case, is a very contextually adequate way of doing things. Right. So in that sense, DA is not a framework. DA opens up your mind and opens up your horizons so that whatever you're doing, you now have the tools to think one level further and to be on the same thinking par with the creators of the platform, of the framework, when they were making decisions. DA exposes what they had to choose from. Now you also have an opportunity to get that same level of transparency into what the choices are, and you can change your way of working. And over time, you may wind up doing something completely different from Scrum out of the box, out of the 13 pages. Your implementation of SAFe may change and modify, and you'll wind up with a version of SAFe that's good for your context. And it might not be exactly what Dean chose, but it works for your company. What do you prefer?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And that's a beautiful summary, Daniel. Thank you. That Disciplined Agile is, they count it as a process glue that ties in all these various practices without prescribing for you, you have to do A, B, C, D. What is your context, and then tailor it.
It's
Perfect.
very agnostic and it's very pragmatic.
Yeah, exactly. So I said there's a question from Hikmet that we missed a question from Nico. Should a project manager participate in appraisal inputs? Nico, if you're online, could you give us some bit of context? Are we talking appraisal in terms of end year performance reviews in the company?
Indeed, Priscilla, that sometimes as an organization, you as project manager are asked to give input for the appraisals for the people working in your teams.
Okay.
And that's of course great if you can give very good feedback. But if there is some critical points in relation to the safe environment, and I've already experienced that it can become a little bit nasty then. If you give some critical feedback, it comes back to you. Is there any consideration with respect to DA to this kind of topics?
Okay, so your question is, does DA advise whether we should as project
how to manage that? Yeah.
How to manage that. And let me just understand from your experience, have you given appraisals and how did it go? Because I think I got a
in general quite fine, but
right.
If it becomes a little bit critical, it can also have a nasty tail in how you work together in a project. People can blame you that you gave the bad input.
Right. Okay, so this is very interesting because on the slide that I shared with the Grow team members process goal, there's the second decision point on providing feedback. It seems that you're being asked in this situation to provide feedback, and DA indeed does suggest to you some two default techniques that you could look at is giving continuous regular feedback or providing self-assessment options to the teams. So my question here would be, in your context, in your organization, what is the culture in there? And to really discuss this, what is your expectations from your management team, from your team members in terms of how do we set up our group norms? Do we want to do 360-degree feedback so that we tackle issues when they arise, so that it's not a surprise? Because sometimes I think we tend to wait until it's that time when we're doing year-end reviews and half-year reviews, and then things already happened a long time ago. So again, with Disciplined Agile, there's no fixed way of doing something, but agree with your team. Okay, let us maybe work with regular feedback.
It is an attention point, yeah.
Exactly, or a self-assessment. Is there someone else who would like to add and advise Nico on this situation that he's tackling? How do you do appraisals in your organizations, for example? And then we can close off. I see we're nearly at the top of the hour.
Yes, I would like, I think, to contribute to this because I'm involved already for the last couple of years in appraisals. And for me, it's more about giving constructive feedback. And it shouldn't be at the end of the year to kind of put somebody down with very harsh feedback, but address it along the way. If things are happening, let's say, during a certain project meeting or in a certain situation, the best is to really discuss it immediately and find a way to help that person, not just ask for a change, but be part of that change together with the person. If the person needs further professional development, training, skills, maybe some coaching, mentoring, it's best to also see how you can play a role as a project leader, project manager, scrum master to help these people develop. So I see that, and that also helps in building psychological, let's say, safety, because people want to work with you because you want to help them in growing. So that's for me really playing a role in constructive feedback, and doesn't necessarily need to go to the line manager, but can be, let's say, discussed upfront and managed as part of the team and as part of the one-to-one discussions with your team member, because I believe that in the end, everyone wants to be successful, wants to be recognized and rewarded for their contribution to the projects. And I think it's just a matter of cultural differences as well. Sometimes it's good to really discuss and find what are the needs, expectations, and also set the clear roles and responsibilities as well. So that's at least my point of view on this topic, and I hope you can share the same view.
Nico, I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you so much, Chris, for contributing. Thanks again, everyone. Yes. Thanks everyone again for your time and for your contributions. I will now hand it back to you, Chris. And if we have not tackled your questions in the chat, I will review all the input that we captured today and provide feedback through the slides that you will receive from PMI Netherlands. Thank you again so much.
Thank you once again, Priscilla. So I think we tackled most of the questions. There was a question about the recording, and I responded to that it will be published on the YouTube channel of the Agile 20 Reflect Festival archive. And then within 3 days or a couple of days from now, you can search for the name there. I want to mention that the survey link was shared by Hikmet on the chat together with the PDU that you can use to log on your PDUs, and you can stay in touch with the PMI Netherlands chapter through our website and also LinkedIn page. And without further ado, because time is up, I would like to say a huge thank you, Priscilla, for your availability this afternoon, and also presenting this great topic with great questions and contribution from the participants. And a big thank you to the organizing team, Arina, Hikmet, Edward, Keith, and Drake, and also the people on the behind the scenes, and the Agile Reflect Festival that really helped us throughout this journey. We would like to thank you guys as well for your participation. I think I'm really excited because I've seen more than 100 participants today, which is amazing. So would like to join you a good continuation of the PMI of the Reflect Festival. Enjoy the remaining events and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone.